Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday. It is a little chilly out there. It's about 26 degrees, and I'm going to warm up today to about 33, and slight chance of precipitation mid-morning, but high likelihood of precipitation in the overnight. And so, we're in a study of Luke chapter 14, and we're in the Easter season. The Resurrection Sunday's coming up. Good Palm Sunday is next Sunday, this Sunday coming, and so we're studying Luke, and we're walking through Jesus' ministry, and we're in Luke chapter 14, and we haven't done this in a while, so let's take a look at our map here. Now check this out. All right, so in Luke 9, this is possibly the spot where the Samaritans refused Jesus. Luke 19, Zacchaeus 19:1, he's here in Jericho. So this is roughly, if you use this, it's roughly 100 miles. Now, notice he is walking a road. Roads are by riverbeds generally. So he's following the Jordan River, okay? So the average man walks about 3 miles an hour. Let's say there's 8 hours of walking time. That's 24 miles a day. However, he's stopping to preach the whole time, right? And he's stopping in synagogues, and he's spending the night places. So I'm sure he was much more than 4 days between here and here. So, where is he right now? He's somewhere in here. He's somewhere in here in chapter 14. And, I say that because as we're studying Jesus and we're coming into, Palm Sunday, this is the life he was living. He was walking around preaching the gospel. And everywhere he's going, the people in all these towns and villages, the spiritual leaders, the Pharisees, the scribes, the lawyers, the people that run the towns are all speaking against him everywhere, and they're all waiting to catch him doing something that is against the law, right? And they can't do it. And Jesus is above reproach, and that's a tough way to live, because we're supposed to live above reproach, right? And that is difficult, but Jesus he does it because it's his nature as God, right? And so in chapter 14, he's in there on the Sabbath, and he went into the house of one of the rulers of a Pharisee. So he's in the house of a Pharisee. He's kicking back. Maybe he's not kicking back. And behold, there was a man before him who had the dropsy. Now, dropsy is what we think pockets of water. This person had pockets of water. Maybe they're bubbles, I don't know. But the word dropsy, it comes from hudro, meaning watery, and optomai, meaning to look at. So he looked watery. Or when you looked at him, he looked dropsical. He looked watery. And Jesus, he responds to the lawyers and the Pharisees. So they didn't say anything. They're watching, it says. They're watching him carefully. You ever been at work, or on a sports team, and the coach is watching you, or somebody's watching you, waiting for that 1 second for you to mess up so they can pounce on you, right? Jesus is feeling that. He sees that. He knows that. And he says, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? He asked the question. But they remain silent because they don't want to answer, because when you know somebody's right, and you're feeling, you have your stance and you're probably wrong, but you're going to dig in and dig your heels in and argue that argument no matter what. I do that, by the way. That's something I'm guilty of. And I know I'm probably kind of wrong, and I'm going to just hold my ground for whatever reason, I don't know. And that's what the Pharisees are doing, because they know he's God. They already know Jesus is Messiah, and they already know what he's going to do. because he's already talked about it. And then he says, but they remained silent. Then he took him and healed him and sent him away and said to them, which of you, having a son or an ox that has fallen into a well on the Sabbath day, will not immediately pull him out? And they could not reply to these things. So one of the best ways to deal with somebody who's in opposition of you, Jesus does this all the time. Paul does it too. Ask a question. Ask the question. Put a picture story to it, or a picture question to it. He painted a picture. If your ox or your kid fell in a well, wouldn't you pull him out no matter what day it was? I would hope I would do that. Like, I hope if my kid fell in a well, I would pull him out no matter what day it was. I don't care if it was Christmas. I don't care if it was Resurrection Day, right? We're talking about my kid in the well, right? Do you think God would want us to leave him there? That's what he's asking. Do you think God's going to want you to leave your kid in the well on the Sabbath day? Right? God made the Sabbath for you. Okay. And so now he told a parable to those who were invited. So they're in the house and he's telling a parable to these people invited. And why does he do it? Because he sees these Pharisees, they chose the place of honor. Could you imagine rolling up in somebody's house and sitting in the honor seat or the power seat at their dinner table if they didn't invite you? And he says to them, when you are invited by someone to a wedding feast, do not sit down at the place of honor, lest someone more distinguished than you would be invited by him, and he who invited him, you both will come and say to you, give your place to this person, and you will begin to, with shame, to take the lowest place. Because, right, if they could have been in a middle place, right? But everybody sits down. Now somebody who is more distinguished comes, and the person who's hosting the wedding feast, right? Probably the father of the groom or the father of the bride, hence God the Father, right? If we're invited and Jesus lets us in, okay, and he's the one who lets us in and come to the table. So if Jesus invites us into the table and we sit down at the power seat that God did not put us there, when somebody more distinguished comes along and everybody else is sat down, you're going to have to get up and move to the lowest seat because that's the seat that's left. That's not where I want to be. That's not where I want to be. And he says, you make the walk of shame. You begin to walk over to the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. Move up higher. Why do we think we're God, or try to do what God's supposed to do, or try to play as though we make all the decisions and we are the center of the universe when we're not? Let God place us. That's the problem with the Pharisees. They're trying to place themselves above God, and that's not right.